All right, how to know if your Amazon FBA product is going to sell. So I spent the last 5 years trying to figure this question out. Believe me, I tried. And I succeeded. You can see we did 2K in sales yesterday. Season's just starting to pick up, and we've done 38K in the last 30 days just on one SKU. Pretty cool. Like, very cool. I'm stoked. I'm very excited. That's my brand. It's my baby. But yeah, I want to share how I got there with you. I've got 10 steps for you. I'll be going over it today. I'm not going to try and sell anything, anything. Don't worry. I just want you to go out there and crush it with this information. So let's get into it. I'm going to start off in a place where almost everyone starts off, right? This is like home base and it's comfortable. Check, check, check. Categories, we're just going to select the usual. And what I want you to do, or what I want to do, is I want to take you through kind of an experience that you would be going through yourself. I don't just want to give you the answers. I want to like actually bring you along on the journey for me. How would this look if I was, take everything away from me? Didn't do 38K in the last 30 days. Sorry, you're up here now. You didn't do 38K in the last 30 days. You've got nothing. You've got some money to start, but you've got to start over again. What does that look like? How do you know it's going to sell, right? It's time to pay. It's time to make the decision, right? It's where everyone gets stuck. And one of those things that you're going to learn later on, it's actually step 4, but I guess I'll give it to you now since it still applies, is search volume. I like to see is over 20,000. And what I mean by that is that the search volume for the market's over 20,000. That doesn't necessarily mean that the search volume for the main keyword is. So typically, if I can find a main keyword that has over 10,000 search volume, I almost inevitably will find 5 or 6, maybe up to 10 other keywords that technically belong to that same phrase. Like say if it was coffee filter, but then there's like Chemex coffee filter, paper coffee filter, recycled coffee filter, etc. That will add up to 20,000. Okay. And now monthly revenue, I like to see that on average, the listings in my market, the top 10, no one's selling 4 figures per month. Everyone pretty much is selling 5 figures to 6 figures per month. Now, 6 figures per month is pretty scary. That's a big market, right? And we're going to plow through that noise. We don't stop for distractions. If there's someone with 6 figures, I like to be only 1 or 2 of the sellers. Primarily, I want to see $10,000 to $90,000 in revenue. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say that there has to be like a minimum of 20K. That's usually just the number that I put in. Anywhere between 10 and 90, honestly, will work. But since, it's minimum, I'm doing one of the lower numbers. Okay. Now, review count. Review count is way overrated. Okay. I have a competitor that has 14,000 reviews. Doesn't matter. It matters if the only thing you were trying to beat them on is social proof. Then yeah, they crushed you. They absolutely crushed you. But there's other factors, other values the customer has. There's other things that are contenders and play into what value is that we're going to be leveraging to maybe compete with some of those bigger competitors anyway. So one of the only reasons I can do nearly $40,000 in sales on a single product is because I'm in a market big enough to handle that kind of thing. It doesn't have to take a bunch of money. It really doesn't. I'm not some rich guy. I really am not. I have been bootstrapping from the very beginning. I always have. And, I don't do this on credit. I just, saved up a little bit of money and kept steamrolling it into more and more stuff. So review count doesn't really matter. Honestly, I'm here to say we could throw 10,000 in there on the maximum just to make us feel better, but it doesn't really matter. Sometimes it can be indicative of a market that's way too big. It's 100,000 reviews. The market's just too big, but we could have learned that from other factors too. Okay, so we set up pretty good parameters here for the most part. We're in the keyword section of Black Box by Helium 10, by the way. I know I go a million miles per hour, but I'm in this. I'm just excited about it, so I'm going. If you're a little lost, I'm sorry. There is a link in the description. You get a discount on this. I said I wasn't going to try and sell you anything. I'm not going to count that. Okay, it is an affiliate link. Technically, I'd make a commission if you bought for it, but you don't have to. You absolutely don't have to. You use whatever works for you, whatever you think, whatever you already want to use and is appealing to you. Taylor Swift decorations. Okay, a couple of things wrong there. So I'm going to start going through my list. I told you I'm going to have 10 things for you. So my first question that I ask when I see this is, do I know who buys it? And in this case, I definitely know who buys it. So it's one of the further steps that is making me not like it. My second question is, are there groups of people talking about it? Yeah, so it checks both of those so far. Now, is it a problem solution market or is it an enthusiast? Well, it's more like a fandom, okay? I would say they are enthusiasts in a way. However, it's about something that isn't your, you can't crack into it. It's a personal brand, so I could never sell something around this. And intellectual property rights would tell me that I can't sell things having to do with Taylor Swift anyway. And technically, you might be able to get away with it for a little while, but it is technically illegal. That's her copyright. So right off the bat, with it not hitting our intellectual property measurement, I wouldn't go into it. Also, it's just kind of common sense, right? I'm not going to start a brand around somebody else. It doesn't make any sense. So I'm going to scroll through here and try and find something that a lot of people might fall into the trap of. I don't think that would get most people, and then we'll go through the questions. Okay, this is actually a pretty good one. I have experience in the hanging shelves market. I sold here. I actually did. I had one listing. I did like, I think $13,000 in this per month in this market 2-3 years ago. It's called Macrame Hanging Shelf. I actually case studied it, documented it here on YouTube, but you check it out if you want really old stuff. Now we're going to go through my list of ideas on this market because it is one that might get people. You might see a listing with 116 reviews doing, 200 sales, or, see a listing down here doing 8 reviews, 100 sales. Be like, I think they're doing it. Why can't I? I'm going to go in there, 55 reviews, right? There's some people on here that look like newer sellers. They're sticking on page 1. And I think I could do this thing. Now, that's a trap. I'm going to tell you right now, it's a trap. Do I know who buys it? Already we're getting ourselves into a little bit of trouble, aren't we? Who buys this? Tell me. And could you put 20 of those people in the same room and have make sure they would get along? Well, customer of my product, I could put 20 of them into a room together. They'd have a lot to talk about. They probably would get along, all of them, honestly. And so I do this little thing called a room test. A little bit different. The question is just step 1, do I know who buys it? But there's kind of this room test that I do. It's like a little cocktail party test. What would the vibe atmosphere be like at a party of customers like this? It'd be pretty strange. It'd just legitimately be strangers. There's really nothing grouping these people together. A design sense, an aesthetic piece like this could be hung in many different, even within decor, it could be a bunch of different things. It doesn't have to just be boho. A lot of different things going here. Are there groups of people talking about it? Now, this is where I see most people don't follow through and do the work here. So if I were to go like wall hanging shelf group, it doesn't mean anything. There's no group of people here. And if I were going to go to Instagram, there wouldn't be wall hanging shelf influencer. It's just the product sits within this category of more so problem solution, one-off purchases. It doesn't really find itself in a high point of focus for a specific group of people. Because guess what? If we know who this specific group of people, and I'll give you a positive reinforced example of this, okay? Positive reinforced, maybe I have to say you're like good or something. You're doing a great job. So a good example of this would be like golf near me. Let's just do that. There's literally a company for meeting golfers. Golfing events and groups, joining a golf league, golf leagues near Seattle, find women's golf events, golf club. If you find clubs, groups, masterminds, YouTube channels, and if I went to YouTube and we did the same thing, golf, and I just looked at that, let's just do that, just golf. Okay, well, we have lots of different reportings about this. And what do we know? We find a channel. I have no affiliation with these guys. They are funny though. It's called Good Golf. And yeah, I'm not going to sit here and watch the whole ad with you, but there are groups of people engaging with this thing. And so we can move down to the next step. And by the way, if at this stage I go, do I know who buys it? And I say no, I don't go to step 2. If I say no at any point, or I don't know how to do this step, it's a total reset. So it's kind of foolproof. So do I know who buys it? No. Well, is it because of a lack of understanding? You don't know your customers. You could look into it and just do a simple Google search, or they legitimately, there's no, nothing further than the product. There's no group surrounding this thing. There's no enthusiasts. Step 3, is there a problem solution market here, or is there an enthusiast market here? Golf, would be an enthusiast market. Problem solution market, wall shelf. I need a piece of decor for my room. I saw something in a magazine. It looks like this. Hanging shelves, same thing. Okay, now one of the things that step 4 on my list is search volume is 20K total. We can build that into the parameters so that we don't have to think about that almost every time. However, there kind of is a max, right? When a market starts hitting 100K in monthly searches, 90K in monthly searches, Those markets are a little bit too big actually. So in our filters right above, I want to see pretty much 20 to 50K in search volume. I'm going to go something closer to that. Now, in bigger markets, if there's more than 50K, that's okay, right? Markets can be big and you can still win in them for sure. And eventually I hope you do compete in bigger and bigger markets. But in the beginning, there is something to not being able to, withstand the force of the river that you're in. You kind of have to have a real strong foundation to stand in a river, right? And get your feet under you with slightly smaller markets that you can still thrive in, still pay yourself a salary off of, if you win there and build your brand there. But it's not, you don't have the might of multi-million-dollar companies constantly raising ad prices and, locking down rates and, sourcing costs that no one has access to. It can get really tough in some of those bigger ones. So let's do this. This is like a classic private label product. I don't want to keep bouncing around so much. It's not really a product research video. It's more how to know if your product will sell. So let's just say this is the product and we want to know if it's going to sell. I'm going to take you through everything. So do I know who buys it? Yeah, definitely, right? Dog owners. And specifically, dog owners who want a clean pet. That's very specific. And if every single one of these people would be able to agree that like I had a dog whose paw I needed to clean. That's a pretty specific thing. And so like, for instance, with our little group test, if you had 25 people at a little cocktail party and they all had bought a dog paw cleaning kit, it's like they're all pet owners, they're all dog owners, and they're all dog owners to the extent of I clean my dog's paw. That's pretty far down the line. So we move to step 2. Are there groups of people talking about it? Yeah, I don't have to tell you. There's groups of people talking about dogs. So we could go find groups, we can go find trainings, we can go find, Instagram accounts, endless, bottomless influencer accounts about pets, blog posts, everything. They're there. So at this step, I'd go do that. But since we already did a little bit of that with the golf, I'll skip that for now. The search volume, 20K total. If it's smaller than that, like for instance, this I think will be. If we go here, technically we'll be able to see the search volume right up here in Helium 10. And this is included in your subscription. So there's 38,000. So there's more than 20,000. There's less than 50,000. It's actually a pretty big term. All things considered, that's a pretty big term. To have 40,000 search volume on its own, not collectively. But I consider that a good amount of search volume. That's a good sweet spot. So it passes my search volume test of more than 20,000. And then I from the search volume, one of the things that I do is I just look and directly see how that equates to revenue. I want to see that primarily most of the sellers doing five figures per month. So 10 to 90,000, 10 to 99,000. And then there's 1 or 2 doing 6 figures. So it's actually perfectly within my parameters in that regard. So number 5 is there a new disruptive brand with great value already? If yes, restart from step 1. If no, move on. I'll say that honestly, because if you're watching this, you're probably a beginner, you're probably newer, probably aren't a big brand owner. If you watch this far into this video, it's an intriguing topic too. You're probably just starting out. If someone's already really kicking ass, and I mean like they've got raving fans, they've got a lot of sales, and they have great brand story. They've got the website, they've got the Instagram's got several hundred followers, several thousand followers, and you go to their website, they've got email lists set up. The imagery is just blowing away at every step. The creative's awesome. Listing looks great. It's going to be pretty hard to fight against those guys. It's going to be an uphill battle. If you just go into a market where it's already pretty old and boring, a lot of this stuff looks the same. It's actually easier, right? Because it's easier for me to stand out. Everything looks the same. And the first thing that looks elegant, beautiful, edgy, whatever your brand theme is, they'll probably jump off the page. So if there is a disruptive brand, I wouldn't want to do it. And let me give you a quick example of what a disruptive brand would look like. So if you're new here, this would be a great example for you. You know where I'm going with this, Savage Sellers. Liquid Death, boom. Boom, boom, boom. Big explosion, boom, boom. That's exactly what I'm talking about, not wanting to compete against. Raving fans, epic marketing and branding. Poppy's another example. It's just like, you don't want to go up against these people. They will crush you. What if I go into a market that's old and boring, and I could be the Liquid Death of my market? Fantastic. However, It's not that easy. And it's simple, but it's not that easy. And so moving on, once we've established the market, the landscape's good, it is an enthusiast customer indeed. The nature of the product is one in which they would buy a better one if it were available. They do care about the outcome. They care about, what they're trying to achieve with it. There's plenty of these people. They live in groups of themselves, and that sounded like a weird cult. They live in groups of themselves. I mean, you know what I mean. You know what I mean from the step before. Once the landscape is set up in a way, this isn't perfect. It's okay. It's the one thing that I don't love about this is that it is more so, I'm not going to complicate it. It's kind of advanced stuff. I want you to get the main points. If you need more help, you reach out to me, whatever. Once the landscape looks good, we have to start thinking about value innovation. There's a great book called Blue Ocean Strategy. Sorry, I've been talking for a while. My voice is starting to go. Had some calls before this. Value innovation, we can break this down into 4 simple things, right? Well, the main point of value innovation is we want to differentiate ourselves and lower cost, aka increase profit. A lot of the times, it's one or the other. It's innovative, high cost, or it's low cost, but it's not innovative, just competing on what the market already has and trying to sell it for less, more for less. What we want to do is we want to take the best of both worlds. We want to do value innovation, and we can break that down into 4 steps. So 6 through 9, I'm going to go through now, the steps that is. Which element of the market am I going to raise far above industry standard? So if this is what the industry standard was, use this as an example. They said we're going to raise the container in the system for application far above industry standard. It's a lot different than this, isn't it? You charge more, the whole 9 yards. Which element are we going to get rid of entirely? So what is it? Do we need every piece of this? And I'm asking myself this now as I'm trying to value innovate here. Well, they're not doing a cloth and they're not doing a ball. They're just doing this. How necessary is any individual element of a market? If this were the case, do I need 3 absorbent towels? Excuse me. Do I need 3 absorbent towels here? They're coming for a paw cleaner. I mean, surely they have some washcloths, right? So we could just get rid of that altogether. It's something we don't have to compete on. Which element are we going to reduce well below average? So maybe it still needs to be there, but it doesn't need to be to the degree that it is. Is it that what's inside is really just soap and what we're selling is an applicator? Well, okay, if that's the case, then we don't need some fancy formula inside. Or is it different, right? So as I understand more about the market and what the customer values, that's how I actually come up with this stuff, by the way. I'm not just thinking of this. Which element am I going to raise well above the industry average? Which element am I going to get rid of? Which element am I going to reduce below the average? I'm comparing it against my model of how my customer sees the world. And then which element am I going to create that's not offered yet? So that's where things get really fun for me as a creative person. What am I bringing to the market that only I have? And that's where like I said, you can really start to have fun. You can start to think of, I'm going to go read and learn everything I can about my customer. I'm going to go look at all the groups. I'm going to follow all the influencers, etc. Figure out how they're talking to each other, figure out what they like, what they value. And I'm going to add something that no one's ever done in my products. If they want that, they have to come to me. And that's like the finishing touch for your product and your value. That's like the final blow. Okay. And then number 10, how am I going to package it so that I jump off the page? You can see an attempt at packaging here, right? I didn't mean for that to sound mean. They tried their best. HoLaugh, I don't know if that's the best name, but there's a box here. There's a dog on it, and they're starting something. That's the beginning of good package design. We could take it much further, right? So what am I going to do? How am I going to actually pack the product? How am I going to market it so that it absolutely jumps off the page? And because if I can get a bunch of impressions to click on my listing, I increase the chances of them buying just by them being there. Just raw law of averages. There's more people there. Then once they get there, it's my job through my creative and through my storytelling, my narrative, my understanding of my customer. And I'm pitching why we did those 4 things. Raised an element above the average, got rid of an element, reduced something below average, and created something that wasn't offered yet. And pitch them on that. through a narrative driven story throughout the listing, throughout the creative, convince them to buy, call to action at the end, and boom, you're making money. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Thanks so much for being here. I'll see you in the next one. Later.